Picture this. You're walking through a garden that ceases to exist in the modern-day world. The air is thick with perfume, not the artificial kind, but the scent of fruit that's been waiting centuries to be tasted again. There's a medlar tree here, its branches heavy with fruit that looks wrong, even rotten. But bite into it, and you'll taste cinnamon, dates, and something close to wine. It's like the taste of paradise itself. This garden, it can't exist in your supermarket, because every fruit here has a fatal flaw. It's too good, too fragile, too real. Modern food is bred for one thing: to survive a 1,000-mile journey in a cardboard box and be as sweet as possible. Today, we're stepping into the forbidden garden, the plants that were too wild, too delicate, or too strange for the industrial world. Welcome to the tastes you'll never find in a store. Number 1, Hamburg Parsley. Hamburg Parsley is the vegetable that refused to choose a single identity and paid the price for its versatility. The root tastes like parsley and celery conspired together, then aged in dark earth until something richer emerged, a nutty, herbaceous complexity that's almost sweet when roasted. The leaves deliver classic parsley flavor, but more concentrated, more alive. It's two vegetables in one, root and herb, both exceptional. In medieval Germany and Eastern Europe, it was a staple. Every winter soup, every stew, every broth began with this root. It provided the aromatic backbone that modern cooking splits between celery, parsnip, and parsley. One plant, 3 jobs. The peasant's efficiency and the cook's secret weapon. But this abundance was its undoing. Why sell one plant when the market can sell 3 separately? Celery for crunch, parsnip for sweetness, parsley for garnish. Industrial agriculture demands specialization. Each plant must have one clear purpose, one harvest method, one price point. Hamburg parsley was too complicated, too multifaceted. It required explaining. So, it vanished from catalogs, replaced by simpler, single-purpose crops. The root that could do everything became the root that did nothing, because the modern world prefers its vegetables to know their place. Number 2, skirret. From the root that couldn't choose between leaf and flesh, we moved to one that chose sweetness above all else, but paid for it with a body too twisted for modern hands to handle. This is skirret, the sweetest root that ever grew in European soil. It looks like a tangle of pale fingers, wobbly and chaotic, and that's exactly why it vanished. Industrial farming demands uniformity, carrots that are straight, potatoes that are round, but skirret is a nightmare for whoever is peeling it. Every root has a rigid woody core that has to be removed by hand, and they grow in a cluster, tangled, twisted, impossible to process by machine. But behind this complexity is beauty at its finest. When roasted, the sugars caramelize into notes of roasted chestnut and wildflower honey. The texture melts into something creamy and rich, like the earth itself turned into dessert. It has a finish that whispers of vanilla and celery, a complexity that no modern root vegetable even attempts. The Dutch called it suikerwortel, literally sugar root. The Roman Emperor Tiberius loved it so much that he accepted it as tribute from the Germans. It shows up in what might be the first beer recipe ever written, a Sumerian hymn to the goddess Ninkasi, dated to 1800 BC. In the garden, its ghost-white lace flowers seemed to hover in the air like lanterns. It was the jewel of the Lenten feast, providing sweetness when sugar was a luxury. But today, it is too crooked, too slow, too inconvenient. Number 3, Salsify. If skirret is the sweetest root that needs no winter, the next plant is the one that tastes like the ocean, and it won't give you its secrets until the frost arrives. Salsify. The Victorians called it the oyster plant. They weren't exaggerating. When you cut into it, it bleeds, a thick white sap that stains your hands and makes preparation a messy ritual. The roots are narrow, wobbly, and fragile. Everything the industrial system hates. But the results are shocking. When cooked, the flavor is unmistakable. The sea, a briny mineral quality that tastes like fresh shucked oysters and artichoke hearts. The texture is velvety, succulent, a creamy mouthfeel that makes you forget you're eating a root vegetable. In the garden, it's a sculpture, tall stems crowned with stunning purple flowers that close at noon, earning it the folk name Jack Go to Bed at Noon. The seed heads transform into silver orbs, floating like dandelions in the medieval meadow. However, salsify turns woody the moment it flowers. The harvest window is brutal. Miss it by a day, and the root becomes inedible. For a system that harvests by the acre, that's a death sentence. It needs the frost to awaken its sweetness. The cold forces the plant to convert its starches into sugar, nature's alchemy, turning survival into flavor. Number 4, sea kale. From the plant that tastes like the ocean, we move to one that must be hidden from the light to reveal its true nature. This is sea kale, and to taste it at its finest, you have to blind it. These ivory shoots are what Victorian aristocrats called the winter luxury. To achieve this color and tenderness, the plant must be grown in total darkness. If light touches it, the stems turn purple, bitter, and tough. The flavor disappears. When blanched properly, the taste is extraordinary. Hazelnut, cauliflower, and sweet pea, all bound together with a delicate oceanic saltiness. The texture is crisp and melting, like biting into a frozen cloud that dissolves into cream. But look at the cost. Every plant requires a ceramic pot, placed by hand in the dead of winter, thousands of them. It's beautiful, labor-intensive craftsmanship that the modern farm cannot justify. In the summer, when left to itself, it becomes a monument. Thick, architectural leaves like blue-gray elephant ears. Clouds of honey-scented flowers that turn the corner of a garden into a sanctuary. It graced the tables of French kings. It brought the freshness of spring to the coldest months of January and February, but it required care, and care doesn't scale. Number 5, Cardoon. While sea kale hides in darkness, the next plant stands tall and defiant, a living fortress that once guarded the garden itself. Behold the cardoon, the wild ancestor of the artichoke. But here, we don't eat the flower bud, we eat the throne. These leaf stalks are as thick as your wrist. They're architectural, and they're covered in spines, sharp enough to draw blood if you're not careful. Harvesting them is an act of combat. Before you can eat them, you have to blanch them for weeks. Wrap them in burlap, bury them in soil, deny them light. Only then does the bitterness soften into something luscious. When braised, the flavor is deeper and wilder than any artichoke. Celery, bone marrow, and smoke. The texture is meaty and substantial, a backbone for medieval stews and pies. It pairs with rich fats like bacon or marrow, creating a dish that warms the bones. The plant arrived in Sicily from Andalusia around 1300 AD. It was the winter king of the Mediterranean, a living fortress with silver thistle beauty. In moonlight, those jagged leaves glow like ancient armor. But you can't ship a 6-foot-tall, spine-covered, labor-intensive vegetable across the country in a truck, so it vanished. And with it, a flavor that belongs to winter fires and stone kitchens. Number 6, Rampion. From the towering guardian, we descend to the smallest treasure in this garden, a root so delicate it inspired a fairy tale. This is Rampion. The name might sound familiar because you've heard the story. A woman, pregnant and desperate, craves the rampion growing in an enchantress's garden. She needs it. Her husband sneaks in, steals it, and sets in motion the tale of Rapunzel, the girl locked in the tower. The roots are tiny, crisp, peppery, with a nutty sweetness. The leaves are tender and slightly bitter, a fresh, grassy palate that cuts through the heaviness of winter meals. In a world obsessed with calories per acre, Rampion is a failure. The yield is laughable. But the flavor was the fresh bite that appeared when nothing else grew, a comfort in the drab winter months. The biology mirrors the myth. If bees don't pollinate it, the flower fertilizes itself. The column splits and curls like braids on a maiden's head. It was rare even in the 18th century, a secret treasure of the private garden, tiny, perfect, and magical. Number 7, Asparagus Pea. While Rampion is the fairy tale root too small to sell, the next plant produces the most beautiful pods in the garden, but only if you harvest them daily, the asparagus pea. Look at these pods. They're architectural, four-sided, winged like miniature sculptures carved by nature itself. There is a brutal rule. You must pick them when they're no longer than 1 inch. At this stage, they're succulent and buttery, with a flavor that is genuinely a hybrid of asparagus and young pea. Steam them whole, serve them with melted butter, and you have a gourmet experience unlike any modern snap pea. But wait 24 hours too long, and they become inedible, tough, fibrous. The harvest window is so narrow that you have to check the plants every single day. For the average person, the asparagus pea simply wasn't worth the hassle. For a commercial farm, this is madness. But in the garden, it's a treasure hunt. And those brick-red flowers are as beautiful as any ornamental you'd plant just for show. It was a favorite of gentlemen farmers in the 1700s, a conversation piece at the dinner table. The pods have intricate patterns that were described as celestial, cosmos-inspired, a vegetable that looks like it fell from the stars. Number 8. Orach. From the plant that sprawls low and demands daily attention, we rise to one that towers 6 feet high and turns the garden into a spectacle. Orach. The Victorians called it mountain spinach. But calling this spinach is like calling a peacock a chicken. Look at it. 6 feet tall, with leaves like jewels. It's stunning. And unlike modern spinach, it doesn't bolt in the summer heat. It just keeps producing, tender and mild, when every other green has withered away. The flavor is clean and tangy. None of that metallic, teeth-coating oxalic acid that makes spinach gritty. It's satiny, refined. The kind of green that makes you rethink what a salad can be. The reason it isn't in stores is simple. It's too tall, too fragile. Those beautiful leaves can't survive the crushing weight of industrial packing. They bruise at a touch. Seeds of Orach have been found in medieval sites across Europe. It was listed in Charlemagne's Capitulaire de Villis, the emperor's decree of which plants must be grown in royal gardens. In the garden, it's beauty and bounty, a plant that feeds you while it dazzles you, a reminder that medieval gardeners didn't separate the aesthetic from the edible. Number 9. Lovage. From the towering spinach that refuses to bolt, we move to an herb so powerful that a single leaf can season an entire pot of soup. Lovage. If you've never tasted it, imagine celery, but concentrated, amplified, turned into something almost overwhelming. One leaf. That's all you need. Crush it, and the scent explodes. Celery, anise, yeast, and a deep, earthy umami. It provides an instant backbone to soups and stews, a flavor so potent that medieval cooks treated it like a secret weapon. The young stems are crisp and juicy. Historically, they were used as edible straws, hollow tubes for sipping savory broths, a direct connection from the garden to the mouth. However, it is too powerful for the modern palate. Supermarkets favor the bland, watery crunch of commercial celery, and lovage is an immortal presence, growing 7 feet tall, covering 3 square feet at the base. It doesn't die. It doesn't shrink. It overwhelms. It was the great seasoning of the medieval monastery. Its name is a corruption of loveache, a plant that warmed the winter and aided digestion after heavy feasts. Monks guarded their lovage patches for centuries. Even the seeds are treasures, spicy, warming, and perfect for pickles or for infusing spirits. Number 10. Welsh Onion. While lovage towers above the garden in summer, the next plant is the one that refuses to die, even when the ground is frozen solid. The Welsh onion. It's not from Wales. It's from East Asia. But it has one trait that made it indispensable to medieval Europe. It will not die. These are perennial onions. They don't form a bulb, which means they can't be stored in a warehouse for months like standard onions. They must be eaten fresh, and that is their fatal flaw. The flavor is sharp, sweet, and highly aromatic, far more complex than a common scallion. They provide a peppery bite even when the garden is buried under snow. They were planted near the kitchen door so they could be snapped off for the daily soup. One legend says that monks guarded a single immortal onion species for centuries, valuing its ability to thrive in poor soil without fertilizers. In a world that demands storage, the Welsh onion is a rebel. It says, "Eat me now, or grow me yourself." Number 11. Corn salad. While the Welsh onion stands tall in the snow, the next green grows low to the ground, so low it's almost invisible, but its flavor is velvet. Corn salad. The French call it mâché, the English call it lamb's lettuce, but the sensation is universally agreed upon. Velvet. The texture is buttery and soft, melting on the tongue. The flavor is nutty, mild, with a subtle sweetness that has no trace of bitterness. It's the green that defines winter luxury. Why isn't it in stores? It grows too low. Soil gets trapped in the delicate rosettes. The leaves are so fragile that they bruise if you breathe on them. And once harvested, they last a day, maybe 2, before wilting. It's a fabulous survivor. It thrives in winters that would kill any modern lettuce. It appears in the fields during lambing season, hence lamb's lettuce, providing the first fresh green of the new year. In the medieval period, it was considered a calming herb, used to soothe the nerves after the long, dark months of winter. A green that healed the spirit as much as the body. Number 12. Fat hen. From the velvet green that soothes, we end with a plant that once fed Europe, but was cast out for being too common. Fat hen. Specifically, the variety called magenta spreen. Look at the underside of these leaves. They're coated in a powdery, silvery sheen. It gives the plant a sophisticated, almost glittering quality. The young leaves are delicate, mineral-rich, sweeter and creamier than modern spinach. The pink centers make it look like the garden has been dusted with glitter. It self-seeds, coming up by itself year after year without human intervention. Historically, fat hen was a staple. The leaves provided greens. The seeds were ground into a protein-rich, dark flour. It was a complete food source. The tragedy is that because it grows so easily in disturbed soil, it lost its status. It became a common weed. It was associated with famine, with poverty, and so it was cast out, not because it failed, but because it succeeded too well. The cultural shift, not biology, erased it, and with it went a flavor that belonged to medieval feasts, a reminder that what we call a weed is often a treasure in disguise. Number 13, rock samphire. Imagine a vegetable so dangerous to harvest that Shakespeare wrote about it, a plant that grows where no sane person would dare to climb. This is rock samphire. For centuries, men risked their lives to bring it to your table. When you crush the leaves, the scent is intense, almost like diesel or kerosene. It's the aromatic oils of the carrot family, concentrated to an almost aggressive degree. This is exactly why modern palates rejected it. It's too wild, too honest. But when you steam it and dress it with butter, something magical happens. The pungency mellows into notes of lemon, salt, and seaweed, the mineral-rich complexity of the ocean itself. The texture is crunchy and green with an asparagus-like delicacy, but with a salty, iodine-like tang that reminds you, this plant was born from sea spray and stone. Greek legend mentions it as one of the vegetables served to Theseus by the goddess Hecate. Romans steamed it as a delicacy at imperial banquets. Strangely, rock samphire was essential to glassmaking. Medieval artisans built their workshops near regions where it grew because the plant's ashes were used in the production of glass, hence the name glasswort. By the 19th century, you could find it in markets across England, packed in brine, sold in barrels. Maritime communities valued it not just for flavor, but for survival. But by the end of the 1800s, it vanished, over-harvested, too dangerous, too difficult. The men stopped dangling from ropes, and the vegetable disappeared from stores forever. Today, it still grows on those impossible cliffs, waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to remember what it tastes like to eat the edge of the world. Number 14, chickweed. From the plant that grows on the edge of death, we descend to one that carpets the earth, so abundant we forgot it was ever food at all. This is chickweed. If you've ever pulled weeds from your garden, you've probably thrown away one of the most nutritious greens on the planet. Its Latin name is stellaria, from stella, meaning star. These flowers are little galaxies, white, five-pointed stars that open at 9 in the morning and close at 9 in the evening, like clockwork. Medieval farmers used it to predict the weather. If the flowers opened fully, there would be no rain for 4 hours. If they stayed closed, a storm was coming. It was a living barometer, growing at your feet. The entire plant is edible, leaves, flowers, stems, seeds. The taste is delicate, reminiscent of spinach or corn silk, but cleaner. No metallic aftertaste, no oxalic acid coating your teeth, just a light, refreshing, almost sweet flavor. When cooked, the leaves can scarcely be distinguished from spring spinach. The texture is satiny, succulent, and perfect for winter salads when nothing else grows. In fact, it was once called winter weed because it thrives even when frost covers the ground. It is more nutritious than lettuce, rich in vitamin A, loaded with vitamin C, and packed with potassium, zinc, and magnesium. Sailors used chickweed vinegar to prevent scurvy when fresh citrus was unavailable. It wasn't just food, it was medicine. Why isn't it in your supermarket? Because it's a weed. It's too successful, too abundant. It grows anywhere and refuses to be controlled or scheduled. For industrial farming, a plant that can't be controlled is a nightmare. But for the medieval peasant, it was a gift. Free food that appeared when you needed it most. Number 15, wild parsnip. While chickweed spreads across the surface of the earth, our final plant burrows deep, waiting for winter's coldest kiss to transform into something miraculous. Wild parsnip. Before sugar was common, before honey was cheap, there was the parsnip. This isn't the perfect uniform parsnip you might find in a modern grocery store. This is the wild parsnip, the one that grew in the medieval garden, twisted, gnarled, and sweeter than any carrot you've ever tasted. The secret lies in the timing. You can't harvest it until winter. At the end of summer, the root is full of starch, dense, bland, unremarkable. But when the first hard frost arrives, alchemy begins. When roasted, that sugar caramelizes into something almost honey-like. The flesh develops nutty undertones, a richness that is deeper and more complex than any modern vegetable. It's the taste of winter itself, cold transformed into sweetness. Before potatoes replaced them, parsnips were the backbone of every stew and soup. They were filling, nourishing, and they turned the simplest broth into something substantial. So what happened? The potato arrived. And the potato didn't need frost. It didn't need a long-growing season. It could be stored for months, shipped across continents. The parsnip, with its seasonal timing and its demand for cold, became inconvenient. And there's another problem. Parsnip seed deteriorates rapidly if stored. You can't keep it for years like other vegetables. Fresh seed must be used each season. For an industrial system that demands efficiency and predictability, the parsnip is a failure. But for the gardener willing to wait, it is a revelation. This is the vegetable that taught our ancestors that sweetness could come from the cold, that patience could be rewarded, that winter, for all its harshness, could transform the earth into something beautiful. It's still there, under the frozen ground, waiting for someone to remember that the best things come to those who wait for winter's kiss. Nature didn't design these plants for trucks. She didn't design them for warehouses or industrial farms. She designed them for taste, for beauty, for the gardener who would take the time to blanch, to blet, to wait for the frost. These are the plants that warmed the winter, that cleared the blood, that made the garden a place of both survival and wonder. They connect us to the orchards of Charlemagne, to the monastery gardens of the Middle Ages, to a time when flavor mattered more than convenience. So, which of these lost flavors would you make room for? Which one would you grow, blanch, or wait for the frost to awaken? Welcome to the Forbidden Garden.